It's down to the last 4 teams, and BetOnline has been your tournament bracket headquarters all March long. MLB is here, and NBA and NHL playoffs are around the corner. BetOnline is the number one source for your summer sports wagering. Head to BetOnline today to stay updated on all the action. BetOnline, the game starts here.
Hey, podcast listeners. Tired of ads barging into your favorite news podcasts? Good news. With Amazon Music, you have access to the largest catalog of ad-free top podcasts included with your Prime membership. Stay up to date on everything newsworthy by downloading the Amazon Music app for free or go to amazon.com/ad-free news. That's amazon.com/ad-free news to catch up on the latest episodes without the ads.
Hit it!
Ad Infinitum is the only podcast solely focused on audio ads.
Advertising.
The creatives who make them, and/or the latest thinking that informs them, how the space is evolving, and, my favorite part, a roundup of recent audio ads and analysis by yours truly,
Ad campaign.
Stew Redwine, VP Creative at Oxford Road, and each episode's guest. This is Season 2, Episode 9 of Ad Infinitum, and this episode's title is Simulacrum Ex Machina, discussing AI-generated audio blending seamlessly with the real thing, reshaping how we create and experience audio advertising. This title draws from Jean Baudrillard's Simulacra and Simulation, where copies create new realities, and the ancient Greek Deus Ex Machina, where divine intervention resolves impossible dilemmas. In the realm of generative AI, this fusion becomes the engine driving innovation in audio content. Platforms like Wondercraft.ai, Inco's Spec AI, Futuri's Spot On, and Athos exemplify this shift. They all produce high-quality AI-generated audio ads that mimic human creativity, but research shows that these simulacra are met with mixed reactions. A report by The Verge highlighted that while AI-generated voices, especially clones, are technically impressive, they often elicit feelings of discomfort or unease among listeners due to their uncanny resemblance to human speech without the warmth and imperfections that characterize genuine human voices. And even upon writing this feels dated. The technology is evolving so quickly. But this phenomenon, known as the uncanny valley, suggests that as AI-generated voices become more lifelike, they can provoke a negative response unless carefully managed. For example, Odyssey's innovation tracker from June 2024 found that people are more than twice as likely to trust a human voice over AI-generated content, with consumers expressing greater comfort with audio ads crafted by humans compared to those produced by AI. However, Gen Z are more accepting of AI-generated voices, simply experiencing them as part of everyday life online. But a recent article titled "TikTok May Soon Use AI to Clone Your Voice Because Nothing is Real Anymore" makes me think about the core issue or question, which is what is real and why does knowing what is real matter? So in this new landscape, Simulacrum Ex Machina isn't just a theoretical concept. It's a practical reality shaping the future of audio advertising. The machine is no longer just a tool, it's a creator of new realities that must be carefully calibrated to resonate with different audiences. As AI continues to evolve, so too will our understanding of what it means to create and connect in the world of audio for real. And that is why our guest this week is Oskar Serrander, former COO of Acast, and before that at Spotify and iHeart, and he is co-founder of Wondercraft.ai. Welcome, Oskar.
Thank you for having me, Stu. Excited to be here.
Excited to have you here because we're recording this on Monday, August 5th, and just this morning I was listening to James Cridland's Pod News, which I do pretty much every morning on my walk with my dog Maverick, my main man Maverick. And I heard the mention of Wondercraft.ai, and I was like, oh yeah, that's right. Today I'm talking to Oskar, and it's their launch day. Quote, Wondercraft has launched Ad Studio, which writes, translates, and produces studio-quality audio ads. It joins tools like Inco's Spec AI, Futuri's Spot On, and Athos. So, Oskar, how is launch day going?
We have a liftoff.
It's going well. Thank you, Stu. How was Maverick's reaction to it? Did he hear it at all? I'm curious about that.
No, that's a great test. That takes me back to the original Terminator. It's like the dogs could identify the Terminators. Like, I need to play him some clone voice commands and see if he freaks out. He's like, no, rah, 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 rah. Next time.
I think he'd like it. But yeah, it's going really well. Thank you. It's been a hectic day with good press and obviously lots of great conversations with our existing partners. I've been testing it for a while and lots of new ones. We had a live stream for our community of Wondercrafters this morning, which was a new thing for us. And I enjoyed that very much. It was a bit wonky of a production, but we had a good time.
I mean, it's just awesome. I've got to say that it's incredible to hear. There's the example that James Cridland had that he played. We'll just play a sample of it now.
Indulge in coffee that cares at Everbean Coffee, your sustainable sanctuary in Williamsburg.
Dégustez toutes les saveurs de votre café. Torréfié avec ses grains d'origine sustainable dans des fermes durables.
So that's just a sample from James Cridland's Pod News this morning of an ad produced with Wondercraft.ai. I mean, you heard me in the whole setup talking about the uncanny valley and the difference between a human voice and a clone voice or synthetic voice. It seems to me like even in the time that it's taken since I wrote that, but sometimes it feels like just in the time that it's taken since somebody heard me say that like 60 seconds ago and now, like the technology is getting better that much quickly. The clone voices really are at this point of almost being completely undiscernible, aren't they?
Yeah, they really are. And I agree with you. The progress is going quite fast. And we're putting a lot of effort into making it really available to creatives to basically draft and sketch with audio, which is kind of a new term that we're using for this. And a lot of the use cases is just that. We want audio creation to be a little bit more prominent and accessible in the creative process for brands and creatives at agencies. And yeah, Wondercraft is a really fun studio to play around with. If you are a lover of great copy and writing, it really gives you a chance to really draft and color it, if you will, with different characters. And right now, the delivery of lines is perfect. I mean, we consider ourselves 100% on par with studio productions in the sense that you can use what we call parrot mode, which gives you 100% precision in how your AI voices deliver lines. If you want it sarcastically, if you want it delivered with a certain intonation or tone, you can do that now. We made that available just in May, so that's quite early. The big release for us today is our timeline editor to really make it easy for brands and creative teams to edit audio ads to really fit the formats that they're going for. So you can have precise 30 seconds, etc., speed up voices, add music and sound effects, and all in a very easy tool. So yeah, it's been a big day for us and it's happening quite quickly. So we're not stopping here. Obviously, this is still very early beginning of a long journey as we see it to make the audio industry better with good creation tools.
That is all great to hear, and it's fun having you on today for launch day. I remember when we were first talking about Wondercraft.ai and the way that you've talked about it elsewhere is like it's Canva for audio, which I just love that because it's so obvious, and yet I feel worth saying that audio isn't visual. There's nothing to see. There's nothing to whether it's video or design, digital, it's like you can grab a piece of paper and a pencil or a dry erase board and pen and boom, you can give somebody an idea of what you're thinking visually, like really quickly. Or if it's words, you can say it or you can write it, but like audio, it's harder, and you guys have removed a lot of that friction. And I just even like the tightness of that description of that it's Canva for audio. As there's other folks in the space, like what is it about Wondercraft.ai? Like what sets Wondercraft apart from Inco's Spec AI, Futuri, Spot On, Adthos, and others?
I mean, I don't want to sound obnoxious or arrogant here, but I actually don't know much about those companies. Two of them I haven't heard of before. Maybe that's on my fault for not doing a ton of digging in the market. But I haven't seen how they really perform. But I'm happy that more people are in this space. I come from a world where I really think that inspires more innovation and optionality for people. And it also gives validation that there is a real problem out there that needs a solution. So I'm happy with that. So I can't really answer what sets us apart, but what I can say is that what we're focusing on is really making it, an easy to use tool for creatives, and it's easy to get started. The user experience, we put a lot of effort into design. Funny enough, we actually hired one of the first lead designers at Canva that came on board Wondercraft in June. He's now spearheading our product design, and it's a joy to have him on and really focus on what is a big part of our philosophy of building product, which is you need to make it enjoyable and easy to work with. And great products put a lot of effort in design, in my opinion, and I think that sets us apart because I haven't seen many of the other products. But yeah, that's really it. Canva for audio kind of describes it well. We want to do what they did for the graphic industry, which really makes it more accessible to independent designers, etc. But also kind of raises the bar for design in general and making it more available for ad platforms and social media platforms and wherever you kind of need that design work, right? But with audio, you really are so alone with the words and sound effects and how you really build a narrative. And I think that scares a lot of creatives. So we kind of want want to democratize the access to audio for creatives to really have more fun with it. I hope this is going to make the audio industry a lot better, because at the end of the day, I think it just needs to have more creators and more brands who are leaning into audio first to make it audio industry, and specifically podcasting, I think is incredibly undervalued. So this is my attempt after so many years in the industry to try to create some good value for creators out there.
Well, I think you really are. And it was good to hear you say, because there's different approaches out there. It's like taking a look at a market and sizing up all the competition and then building my designs based off of them. And it's like, you're like, hey, I'm so head down and so focused on making this good for a need that's very much in the marketplace. Like, I don't even know who some of these competitors are. And then I love your positive outlook on it as well, that like, well, that's actually a good sign there are these people I didn't even know about, because that means that we're onto something in solving this. And I think you absolutely are. You know, I mean, audio is such a strange craft because it is not immediately visual, which again is obvious but worth stating. It's like, I think of, there's this old legend or story of this monk that's trying to get his disciples to understand something, you know, about this spiritual point, and he asks them all if they can think of what the smell of a rose is, right? Can you identify the smell of a rose and like remember it and think of what that, yeah. And he's like, okay, describe it to me. And it's like, ugh, like that becomes very different. And I think in audio, it's kind of like the sound of an airplane. Okay, the sound of a jet engine. Okay, the sound of a drag race. Okay, the sound of a quietly closing door. Like the sound of the ocean. The sound of cicadas in the summer. It's like we can all hear, I can hear it like even as soon as I say it, but then it's like, okay, now describe that to me. It's like, bleh. It gets very challenging. So I can say, and I will say, like stacking up all the different options that are out there, Wondercraft, I like the premise, Canva for audio. So right there, like I trust that a lot. Tight economy of words, like you're putting your money where your mouth is. It makes me want to trust you right there. Wondercraft looks cool. It's easy to use. And in no time, you can be going from your idea for a spot to a finished spot. And not only that, transcreate it into different languages as well. So my hat's off to you and taking this moment basically to say congrats on the launch today.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate that. That's great to hear, obviously. And I'd be very sad if it wasn't the case, because I've been living all these challenges and problems throughout my career, right? Even though when I was starting at Spotify in 2009, I was an agency side before that. And I joined Spotify in Stockholm, Sweden. And everyone wanted to work with us. You know, what's not cool about just music streaming, and brands wanted to be on board. How do we get on there? But all they could send us was banner ads and, you know, their display stuff. And like, no, we got to think audio. So that's really started the whole journey in this realization that audio is neglected many times in the creative process because of, I think, many different reasons, right? I think people listening can list a number of them, independent of what reason. I just think audio deserves a little bit better. And I'm looking at the industry now, and I still see the same thing so many years past that early realization, right? So I feel like Wondercraft has been something I had in my back pocket. It's something this needs to be fixed sometime in the future. And yeah, last summer, that was the convergence of the idea and technology being in a place where you can actually make this happen.
I love that so much. And I'm even thinking of our conversation so far that it's like, we're not even talking about the AI piece of it. We're really talking about the solution. The fact that it's a great solution created by great people that understand the problem. And the AI is just kind of like, oh yeah, I mean, that's a whole piece of it, which we'll talk about in just a bit, but let's jump in right now and actually grade some ads. So what we do is we look at top advertisers in radio, Sirius XM, on podcast. So Magellan.ai has put together the top podcast advertisers from June 2024. And what they do is they analyze the trailing months data to uncover the top podcast advertisers by spend and change in spend. And the top 4 spenders in June 2024, according to Magellan.ai, were BetterHelp, Toyota, Amazon, and Mint Mobile for a combined spend of almost $20 million. The top spenders list uses Magellan's proprietary model informed by the most downloaded podcasts. So that's what we're going to be listening to. All right, so let's jump into this. Oskar, you ready to grade some ads?
I am so ready. This is going to be fun.
Yeah, if we're not having fun, what is the point? That is obvious, Oskar, that you are my kind of crazy. So here we go. First one is from BetterHelp.
Everyone knows therapy is great for solving problems, but getting therapy has its own problems too, like finding the right therapist, fitting into their schedule, and of course, the cost. Well, BetterHelp can solve those problems. It's totally online and built around your schedule. It's surprisingly affordable too. Connect with a credentialed therapist by phone, video, or online chat, all from the comfort of your home. Visit BetterHelp.com to learn more and save 10% on your first month. That's BetterHelp, H-E-L-P.
Okay, here we go. So, given that spot a listen there, what are your immediate reactions?
I mean, my immediate reaction, was that an AI voice or was it a real person? I'm half joking. I'm assuming it was a real person. I don't know if BetterHelp is using Wondercraft yet. But I mean, having heard a lot of BetterHelp ads, I think they are, I understand why they're a big spender. Quite straightforward. Very kind of even-keeled read. I would say this, if this was a read that we did on Wondercraft, I'd say like, maybe I should spice it up a little bit, give it a bit of more of a hook. Perhaps. But as far as a podcast ad, I'm going to say with a medium. I think there are some improvements we can do here. Stu, what do you think?
Well, what would you give it on a scale of 1 out of 10? Because you said medium, so is that a 5? Or are we talking more like we're in 6, 7 land?
No, but I think it's a pleasant listen, right? If this is in a podcast, which I'm assuming we're talking about, I think the attention is there. But I think I've heard BetterHelp ads. This is not a dig on any host who actually did this host read. Lovely. But I would say in terms of creativity and maybe getting me interested, I'd say it's a 6.
All right, you gave it a 6. And what we use for grading ads at Oxford Road is Audiolytics, and listeners of Ad Infinitum are familiar with that. So you're not off base. Audiolytics gave it a score of 72%. Our target for all in-market creative is a 90. So I would say like it's hanging right in there with your 6, where it's like there's some things that can be done to improve the performance of this spot and the score of this spot. But let's do this. What I like to do is at least do 2, because then we have a couple that we can compare, and then we'll grade the final 2. So let's go ahead and listen to the next one real quick. It is from Toyota. Here we go.
When you're in the market for a new SUV, you want a vehicle that will handle your daily commute, navigate the elements, and can adventure with ease. You need the reliability of a Toyota and the confidence that your investment will last. Why? Because after all the carpools, rugged trails, and weekends out, you want an SUV that still has plenty of miles left in it and holds its value for a great trade-in deal. That's where Toyota leads the pack as the #1 resale value brand for 2024, according to Kelley Blue Book's KBB.com. So check out the legendary redesigned Land Cruiser or spacious Grand Highlander, or test drive a RAV4, available in gas, hybrid, and plug-in hybrid models. And remember, when you choose Toyota, you're not just buying a car for today, you're investing in trade-in value for tomorrow. Visit buyatoyota.com, the official website for deals, for more. Vehicles projected resale value is specific to the 2024 model year. For more information, visit KelleyBlueBooksKBB.com. Kelley Blue Book is a registered trademark of Kelley Blue Book Co., Inc. Toyota. Let's go places.
Okay, that was a 60, and for me, that felt like a 60. Felt like maybe more than a 60. What do you say, Oskar?
I agree with that. It was a lot there, wasn't it? I feel Toyota tried to cram in a lot of copy in that 60 seconds when they could have kind of paced themselves and maybe honed in on one message to really land that. I feel a little overwhelmed. My hair was blown back a little bit. I have long hair, so it kind of stands out. I think, where they went wrong here is that they have an opportunity. And this is what we see a lot, right? Let's create a spot. We need a spot for our ad campaign. It's going to run on podcasts and music streaming. All right, says the agency. They're going to start producing this ad. This goes into a long email chain of approval flows, right? Everyone comments on it. And this is a result of that process, in my opinion. If I were Toyota, and I'd use something like Wondercraft perhaps, or if I have a studio where I can record a bunch of different ads at the same time, start testing out different copy, different messaging, and just kind of own the space a little bit, or give it a little space to breathe in the execution. I'm going to give this a 35%.
35%. Okay. Wow. While it did score lower in Audiolytics than the other one, so that's where we're in line with each other, it did not get so severely punished as you did. So it came in just 1 percentage point lower at 71%, because the thing is, it had a lot of information, and that is the thing as a user primarily of Audiolytics is like, look, it's a helpful guidance tool, and it's very text-based and information-based. Like, does this include this information or not include this information? And it also gets increasingly difficult. The thing that's different with Audiolytics than like the Oskar Serrander scale that we're making up today together is it's also weighted so that it gets increasingly difficult to earn even 1%. So that's another aspect of it. Like, 1, the target is 90, not 100%. And then 2, as you move up the scale, it gets harder and harder and harder. So all that to say, we're hanging together. Like, yeah, it had a lot of information, but it left a lot to be desired. And I also want to point out that it's like some of the detractors of something like Wondercraft.ai are basically like, oh, it takes away the creativity and it's just a voice and it's not going to be what all that could be done creatively. And it's like, hey, take a listen to the market. We just listened to 2 spots that were a single voice each. One had music, one didn't. So, you know, it's like, I know I'm kind of making a little bit of a double-sided point there, but that's okay. I'm used to it. I'm in creative. But it's like, look, if this is currently where the bar is at, 60%, 70%, 35%, you know, whatever, you know, we're down here, C students are failing, and the current complexity of our creative is a single voice in one song, then it's like, this is absolutely making the case for something like Wondercraft to deliver this kind of stuff. But the truth is, I think not only can it deliver this, it can even liberate you to go beyond this.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. It's kind of what I alluded to as well. I think this is usually what happens with audio advertising. I don't know how many variations Toyota is running for this campaign, but I think giving, you know, with a tool like Wondercraft, or even if you start the process, you know, independent of what tool you're using, it's really about what you're creating, right? So if you are creating different variations, you're trying to figure out if this is a voice that you want to use for a certain target group, or you want different music. I mean, just be able to create a lot more variations is so easy now. And I can tell you, this might as well be in a voice on Wondercraft, right? I mean, it's so easy to make it exact same quality of read with AI tools like Wondercraft. So you have an unlimited creativity box to play in. And that's really where we're coming from here, Stu. What I said earlier, and when we started talking, is that having audio earlier in the process to even start drafting out what could a great voiceover be for the video, right? Or how can we use that to create fantastic copy for podcasting, for music streaming, for radio, which are 3 very different channels, right? I think this ad would probably work. They're probably running this on radio, at least music streaming. For podcasting, I would deem this a ad that is quite easily skippable. Maybe I'm saying that also because it's 5 p.m. in the afternoon and it was a 60 seconds with a lot of information. You know, that matters too. But I think the point here is that AI tools and the nice companies you mentioned before and Wondercraft, what we're trying to do, I'm assuming they're trying to do something similar, is to really get more creativity in the flow. And it's really not about the technology. It's really about the ad copy and making that come alive in a way that doesn't just kill the creative process, right? Because you start out with a copy like this, you send it to the production studio and they get the talent and they get a lot of that, the process going. It's easy that it just ends up with this one spot to rule them all, to run on radio and podcasting and Spotify or Amazon, wherever you're running it. And I think we can go beyond that now. Other digital channels aren't doing that anymore. You customize the content for the audience on Meta's platforms or Google's platforms, right? Audio should really do the same, in my opinion. And I think that's better for the brand. It's better for the creators and certainly better for the listener as well to get ads that they can relate to.
Exactly. And that's one of the things I love depicted in the video was like the transcreation of showing the spot in America and then it's in Australia and then it's in France. Like, it's liberating. These tools are powerful. And then it's like, okay, so now how can I use this powerful tool to be more creative? And let's see, we don't know if what tools they're using, doesn't matter, but let's take a listen to the next advertiser. This one is from Amazon's Whole Foods.
You can save every day by shopping at Whole Foods Market. Seriously. Don't just go for the big sales. They have literally thousands of low-priced goods with their house brand, 365 by Whole Foods Market. While at happy prices, limited-time seasonal flavors, and all the quality you expect, like no high-fructose corn syrup or over 300 other ingredients banned from all the food they sell. There's so many ways to save at Whole Foods Market. Now you know.
All right. So again, very simple, single speaking voice. You had identified on the last couple, it's like these are feeling like spots from radio or streaming that are just like getting ported over into podcast. You know, we're not hearing host reads, but this is what we've got. So these are the top spenders in podcasts for June. What do you have to say about this Whole Foods spot, Oskar?
Yeah. So I think this was a good tone on the podcast ad. I think this will work podcasting, probably music streaming as well. Not too intrusive. I think that's important, especially in podcasting, that you have that the right kind of tonality in podcast ads. I think I'm getting that right. I'm not the expert here. You are, Stu. I'm trying not to embarrass myself, and I hope I didn't offend Toyota in last one, Whole Foods and Amazon. I think this has, I mean, to me, it kind of resonated, right? I think they're getting the message across that it's not only about the big sales, probably because people go hunting for those big sale days at Amazon. I feel like I'm understanding the concept here. Yes, they have great prices and on their own brand food items, and some healthy aspects is there that you can expect. So I think this is pretty good. It's pretty short and sweet as well, which I appreciate. I think a lot of brands are not, like Toyota did that mistake of kind of, maybe they started at 30, they ended up with 60. I think trying to get it into a neat 30 is very much an art form. I think this ranks around the 70 mark, 70% on my score. Let's see how I did.
Okay. Part of what's happening is you're scoring yourself against Audiolytics.
I'm nervous now.
Okay, don't be nervous. So this one came in at a 74%.
All right.
So we're like, Whole Foods is number 1 for both, BetterHelp is number 2 for both, and Toyota is number 3 for both. Even though the scores are different, the rank is the same. And I think you're pointing something out this time, I have to say on this episode, that's interesting, because I've been kind of broad brushing listening to the produced ads, which is what I would call this, non-host read ads, in podcast. And I've sort of haven't been paying close enough attention, I suppose. Like, you're pointing something out to me where it's like, yeah, it's really interesting. The BetterHelp one and the Whole Foods one, like the tone is very chill, where a lot of radio, especially where almost half of the hour feels like is advertisements, is like yell, yell, yell. I've got to interrupt you. I've got to grab your attention and keep your attention. Where podcasts we know is lean in, but I'm not going to do host read. Well, in that case, then I need to do the most pleasant tone possible. And I really think that's interesting. You're highlighting that in these top spenders from June.
Yeah, no, I think that's important. I think, podcasting can certainly have a way more chill vibe in your ad read, and these are produced spots or non-host reads or whatever you want to call them. You can allow yourself to do that in podcasting. I think for radio, yes, you do need, the 1-800 number and little bells and whistles. In music streaming, I think it's more about the hook in the beginning to not have people kind of zone out. I see my daughter, I just upgraded her to premium. I'm embarrassed to say she had a free Spotify account. I thought it was fun to get her reaction on ads, I guess. But I guess I see her zoning out so quickly if it's not interesting. So I think those are what I see, the 3 different channels and how you approach creative for them.
And that's really important. That's part of the nuance of audio where you're saying, it can be an afterthought. It's definitely more of obviously front of mind for you and I. But in general, I like that you even mentioned this earlier where it's like there's different reasons why, one for me is the experiential creative aspect of that it's unseen, and there's that whole thing. And then there's also just what percent is it even of somebody's advertising spend? Well, your attention's going to go where your investment level is, but it really does take expertise and nuance to go okay, where is this specific ad going to show up? And let me make sure that I'm doing everything that I can to contextualize it appropriately where it's going to be showing up. And so for this last one from an agency that always gives the maximum effort, let's listen to an ad for Mint Mobile.
Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile. With the price of just about everything going up during inflation, we thought we'd bring our prices down. So to help us, we brought in a reverse auctioneer, which is apparently a thing.
Mint Mobile Unlimited Premium Wireless. How to get 30, 30, bit to get 30, bit to get 20, 20, 20, bit to get 20, 20, bit to get 15, 15, 15, 15, just $15 a month? Sold!
Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
$45 up front for 3 months plus taxes and fees. Promo rate for new customers for limited time. Unlimited more than 40 gigabytes per month. Slows full terms at mintmobile.com.
Okay, there we have it. Ryan Reynolds for Mint Mobile. That's the last one. What do you give this one?
I mean, it's hard to beat Ryan Reynolds coming in here. I'm sure that's scored high on your ranking as well. I'm sure part of the scoring, right, is a Ryan Reynolds score. It's quite binary. Either you have him or you don't.
Yes, that's actually the 70-second subcomponent is Ryan Reynolds.
Yeah, there you go. I knew it. Does your ad have Ryan Reynolds or not? I'd say that this is a pretty good ad. And again, we're listening here to an ad that they're running across probably radio, probably podcasting, and well, we know podcasting, and then music streaming. Pretty sure on all of it. And I think it's hard to please all those 3 channels like we talked about before. But I think this strikes the balance fairly nicely because of Ryan Reynolds and that they lead with more comedy. I think the other examples that we listened to were pretty much straightforward, tell it like it is. This is what you get. There wasn't a lot of comedy aspects of it or anything other than just information to really get the hook in, pleasant read, etc. This, you lead with Ryan Reynolds. You kind of want to listen up what he has to say. You either guess it's Mint Mobile or it's a tequila brand, so you want to figure that out first. And then there's some other voices coming in there. Obviously, the end of it is a bit daunting, but at this point, you're already listened to most of it. Yeah, I mean, I think this kind of works. It's fairly short as well, so I'm not reaching over to skip with a 30-second ad as much. So what could this be? I'd say this is fairly good. You get a good CTA there to just go and switch. I'm going to say this is probably a 75. It feels efficient.
Good. It's an Oskar Serrander 75. It's an Audiolytics 79.
Oh, look at that.
So we're right there. We ranked these in the exact same order. So it earned the highest score for a lot of the reasons that you're talking about. Yes, in substantiation, having someone who is recognizable to the audience, which Ryan Reynolds, it's hard to get much more recognizable than that. It's also a very clean message, and the use of the comedy makes a positioning point about their pricing. It makes a demonstration point about their pricing. And like you said, it's a clean ad that is fun to listen to. And like you said, I mean, it's like you hear Ryan Reynolds and you know you're in for something entertaining. And that's something that there's been a lot of impressions and a lot of positive mental associations that let us know that that's what's coming. And so, yeah, that's what this is banking on. And that's okay. That's how it works. I think it's really great that you're highlighting and pointing out that this does seem like one that would be applied across all different audio channels. But we've got 4 good examples here that when we look at these, what's interesting is here, none of these are host read. None of them include a personal endorsement because they're not host read. They're all pre-recorded spots, and we've got them in the same order, descending order from Mint Mobile, Whole Foods, BetterHelp, and then Toyota. So here's my question, Oskar. Is there one of these, BetterHelp, Toyota, or Whole Foods, that you want to put into Wondercraft and create an optimized version?
Oh, I think it's definitely starting from the bottom up. I think the Toyota one needs to get in there. You need to go into the audio editor where it's all text-based. You can invite the wider Toyota team, invite the agency. You can start collaborating on the different copy variations and start testing out some concepts. That's what I would do, because there was a lot of things crammed in there. So I would kind of separate a few that kind of takeaways and see if you can run a few different variations. I would definitely go for the Toyota one, and I would have some great fun with that one.
So looking at the ads, we've got them ranked here. Toyota's at the bottom. Like, take me through exactly how would you work on optimizing it in Wondercraft.ai, and then we might have you do that and come back on the next episode and play the result.
I'm a person that sits and nitpicks on copy for a while, and I love that. I love like sinking my teeth into just a line and iterate it. What I love with Wondercraft is I can do that, many different variations. I can add, Alfred, which is a deep British voice, or I can turn him Australian and see if that works. I can start testing out some concepts. Because for me, copywriting, and you probably agree with this too, it'd be interesting to hear your take, is like writing for audio is different than writing for other things, writing for articles, etc. Writing for audio is a different thing, and I think we're making it really available to you to sound it out, not only in your own voice, but in other voices. I would say, like with the Toyota one, I could even pop it into we have an AI assistant, Wondercraft. You don't have to use it. You can just start writing or copy paste your copy that you already have and start writing. It's a great text editor, but you can also get some help when you get stuck. You can ask AI to make a variation of it. So what I could do here is pop in the Toyota copy, and I can ask our assistant to kind of create a few variations, and I can start there. It gives me a little bit of a start. And this is generally how we view generative AI now. It's a great helping tool to get me started, kind of get the ball rolling, if you will, so you have some momentum behind it, instead of just staring at a blank sheet of paper and trying to come up with it yourself, especially in the late afternoon when you haven't had lunch. It's a great idea to do that. So I would do that. I would pop it in, get a couple of variations, and then I would sit and enjoy the art of copywriting, because I think it's beautiful art. And I would come up with 3 different variations for Toyota that lifts out 3 different aspects of that ad we heard with the same call to action. I think it was going to a certain website where all the deals are available, and I try to drive the copy into that action. I would say for me, after, 20 minutes, 15 minutes, I had drafts that I can send. And this is a use case that I really like now with the teams and enterprises that we have up and running in brands, but a lot of sales teams are using Wondercraft. And what I like with creative teams at media companies with the use case that they're using it for is that they can start creating a couple of drafts for Toyota to listen to just get the ball rolling, and then get a conversation going with the partner or the agency to really see what they think is a good idea, and you can collaborate on it. And I think that's a good way to run a creative process, not in isolation, but in collaboration.
I love that. It's not just about efficiency. It's like, no, I want to take the time when like my blood sugar's at a good level and I have this tool that allows me to iterate on it and get some examples together that I can share with the team. I think that's awesome. I would love you guys to take a stab at it. And then once you've done that, we'll play the result back on the next episode of Ad Infinitum. How's that sound to you?
That sounds great, Stu. Would love to do that. Let me time cap myself. I'll put a timer on for 10 minutes and then see what we can do.
That sounds awesome. I can't wait to hear the results. So wrapping it up here, listening to those 4 ads and giving the different scores, just for the chief audio officers that are listening, for all 4 of them, and I did this on the last episode, I'll just do it again, kind of lumping them all together because all the scores are basically right in there together. All 4 of them would benefit from more data-driven elements, like whether through the use of statistics or testimonials, I mean more facts and figures, or even endorsements. Yes, we have Ryan Reynolds in the one, but if you're not going to have the host read the ad and give a personal endorsement, then leverage something else to make up for that gap in trust boosting, right? So that's one. And most of them underutilize the power of scarcity, which can be pumped up, just scarcity and urgency. Like, why should the listener act right now? And that doesn't always have to be some huge discount or, a huge discount with a specific deadline. Though that works really well, there's other things, which is, compounding pain or lost opportunity. Why do I need to do this right now? Especially when you're testing in audio. That is so critical. If your campaign is only going to be on air, let's say you're doing a 6-week test or an 8-week test, and you don't build messaging that is aware of that fact, then the audience that you're trying to test, you don't give them any reason to take action within that period of time of your test. You're doing yourself a disservice. So that's really important. And then I think, these are things that you'd mentioned as well, Oskar, and I think that Wondercraft is a great tool to be able to allow for, like, what's some more creative experimentation that you could do to customize these messages. They do all feel like they could be ported over. I will say, I think BetterHelp and Whole Foods feel more intentionally designed for podcasts, and I think you would agree with me on that, while Toyota and Mint Mobile both felt more like one-trick ponies. We can't know that for certain, but that's an area where the ads could customize more to specific audiences, which is something that comes along with a host read ad that they're going to do, host reading, giving a personal endorsement. Okay, so if I'm not going to do that, I've got to make up for all the things that a host could do and do that actually in my produced audio. And I mean, it's really about maximizing the effectiveness of the audio advertisement. What is the job that you've hired it to do? And how are you using your tools to put out a creative message that is clear? And when I say creative, what I mean is that it cuts through, that it gets attention, that it connects. Those are the things you have to look at, listen to for the job that you've hired it to do. Is how do I know that I'm going to get their attention, that I'm going to connect with them emotionally, rationally, with a very clear message to get them to do the action that I need them to do in listening to this advertisement. So the areas for me, for the chief audio officers that are listening, I would say is look at boosting substantiation with facts and figures or some other kind of endorsement. If you don't have Ryan Reynolds, look at your scarcity and your urgency. How can you get people to take action now? And look at customizing the message to the audience as well. How about you, Oskar? For the CAOs that are listening, what advice would you give them based on the ads that we just heard? These are approximately $20 million in spend in the month of June on these advertisements. What advice would you give to the chief audio officers that are listening on how to execute their audio messages?
I think you covered a lot of great recommendations there, Stu. What I would say is my first recommendation would be to start earlier in the creative process, right? Before you're even thinking about audio or different channels, think about audio already in that stage when you're thinking about the campaign. Secondly, collaboration. I think the best agencies, you guys, and the best ad agencies in general collaborate a lot on the creative process, especially when we're talking about creator channels like podcasting can be. So I think that's an important one. But also do it internally with your team. I think it's great. Wondercraft makes that super easy to collaborate on copy and the end results. Thirdly, be brave and create variations of copy, try different voices, and definitely create different versions for radio, for podcasting, and music streaming, because they are quite different, and you lose out on the efficiency of the campaign if you don't think that way, in my opinion. And if none of that is working, just call Ryan Reynolds.
There you go. That's the extra fourth bonus piece of advice.
That's it.
This has been awesome. And while I set up the conversation with the bunch of words that are hard to pronounce, Simulacrum Ex Machina, it's funny that that's really not been any part of the conversation. And that's a whole separate conversation. I think folks should listen to your podcast to listen and hear about what we talk about at Oxford Road is augmented intelligence, but just the use of AI in creativity and how does it impact it. So that's really a plug for your show. So as well as your show, your podcast, Oskar, where can listeners go to learn more about you and Wondercraft.ai?
Thanks, Stu. I want to have you on my podcast. I mean, we're new at this. I feel like a fraud. I've been in audio for so long. I used to do student radio. This is too long ago to mention, but we're starting this up to have some fun with it. And I'm meeting with some interesting folks around, different aspects of creativity and technology. So it's fun. I'm definitely going to send you a little invitation to come on. I'll be happy to have you. I'll be honored to have you, of course. You can find me on LinkedIn. It's easiest. Oskar with a K, Serrander, Serrander. I am the co-founder of Wondercraft, and you can find us at wondercraft.ai. And we're around on the social platforms here and there as well. But those are easy touch points to check us out.
So awesome. This was great talking with you. Looking forward to being on your show as well. I would love that. And thank you so much for making this an excellent episode of Ad Infinitum.
I had a blast, Stu. This was great. It's a great podcast. I am thrilled to follow it and have been for a while now since you introduced it to me. And yeah, thanks for having me.
Well, you are most welcome, and congrats again on launch day. And for those CAOs that are listening again, we'll close with Oskar's advice. Think audio early. Such great advice. Collaborate. Whatever tools you're using, collaborate with the people that you're creating with, and be brave, be bold, be brave with the ideas. And to our listeners, remember, if you like what you heard today, show us some love with an honest 5-star review. And if there's an ad you can't get out of your head or some other aspect of audio advertising that you would like us to discuss, please let me know. It's stew at oxfordroad.com. That's STEW at OXFORDROAD.com. And until next time, remember to have fun making the ads work.
Hi, this is Chris Howard, host of Plug Network Chris Howard. And BetOnline is the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for everything football. BetOnline has every stat, every matchup, and even live odds and spreads to bet on during games for pro and college games. And if you think you know your stuff, get in on BetOnline's $200,000 mega contest where you can pick 5 games against the spread every week for your chance at weekly prizes and share of $200. And when the game is over, head over to BetOnline's online casino where you can get in on a game of blackjack, poker, or just unwind with one of their over 150 slot games. So head to the website today to get in on all the action. BetOnline, the game starts here.
Whether you're scouring business financial sites or listening to economics podcasts like this one, you'll find there's no secret to successfully managing your company's finances for the future. You just need PNC Corporate and Institutional Banking, whose team of dedicated relationship managers bring 160 years of experience, advice, and an array of tools and tech to scale to any size business. PNC Bank, brilliantly boring since 1865. PNC Bank, National Association, member FDIC.